interesting this upcoming season. Obviously, he is due for a contract extension. Many believe that he will have his extension done going into training camp and the season. We still are a couple weeks away, so there's still time for Jarred Vanderbilt and the Lakers to kind of figure that out. But this season, he could either play 20 plus minutes a game, or he could play like 8 to 10 minutes a game, right? Because here's the thing. You look at this Lakers roster, and offensively, he is probably our worst offensive player. Now, he has been improving and working hard and really just spending the hours in the gym, especially on that corner three. And if he has any level of just consistency in his three-point shot, then I definitely think he plays somewhere in like the 15 to 20 minute range that regard, just because he is so good defensively. But the problem that we saw last year is our offense would get stagnant at times, and he just became a liability on the offensive end. And yes, his defense was so great, but like the Denver series, he didn't really have an impact. So he ended up pretty much not playing. And that becomes a problem, and that is something that could continue to be a problem if he becomes a liability on the offensive end, because teams don't have to worry about him, right? So now Lakers are playing essentially 4-on-5 on the offensive end, because Jarred Vanderbilt's just standing in the corner, where if you have a guy like Rui, or you have a Taurean Prince who shoots 39% from three, or anything along those lines, now teams have to respect that. Also, those guys' ability to put it on the deck and just get to the basket, shoot the mid-range, right? Like they could score at multiple levels, where Jarred Vanderbilt, he's pretty much at the rim or catch and shoot three, which isn't a bad thing, but if he's not able to knock it down at a consistent clip, then how can you play him over a guy like Taurean Prince, who he can provide the defense, but he can also provide offense in a multitude of ways, right? You look at this Lakers roster, and they are strapped, right? Especially at the position that Jarred Vanderbilt plays. Now, I don't think Jarred Vanderbilt falls out of the rotation entirely, right? But also Cam Reddish, right? He's more versatile in what he can do, especially on the offensive end. He's not a great three-point shooter or anything like that by any means, but he's a guy that shoots like around 50% from two-point range. He's a guy that has the athleticism and the quickness and the ability to handle the ball and get to the rim and do multiple things and not just be a spot-up three-point shooter. Although I just think more likely than not, and I've said this before, I wouldn't be surprised if Jarred Vanderbilt only plays about 10 minutes a game in that specialty role. And I've gotten some pushback from people that are like, there's no way he's got to play at least 20 plus minutes. But look, if LeBron and AD are both primarily playing the 3 and the 4, there's no room for Rui and Vando to play 20 plus minutes. And then on top of that, you got Taurean Prince you got to find minutes for. Even if you don't play Cam Reddish, Christian Wood is probably playing some minutes at the 3 or the 4, right? Like, it's just, how do you find minutes for everybody? And if Vando again becomes a liability, then on the offensive end, that is, you have so many other options now. Like last year, it was just Vando and Rui. That was it, right? I mean, we had LeBron, of course, that could play out on the perimeter and be a wing player, but outside of him, all we had was Rui and Vanderbilt. So of course, both guys were going to get 25 minutes a game. But you look at the numbers, right? Rui averaged 22 and a half minutes per game in the regular season. In the playoffs, that actually bumped up to 24 and some change, right? Because he was so good in the playoffs. You couldn't keep him off the court. But Vando almost dropped in half. Vando was getting about 24 and some change per game in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, that dropped to just 16 minutes per game. So you're talking, and that was because of him being a liability, right? Teams would just leave him open and he couldn't knock down the shot. And it was like, what do we do? And then the offense gets stagnant and you don't have anywhere to go because teams are double teaming or triple teaming Anthony Davis. LeBron, they're locking in and honing in on LeBron and Reeves, right? And if D'Lo doesn't have it going, or if Reeves doesn't have it going, then what do? You don't have that other guy. So it's like, okay, we got to take Vando out, and then you put in a Rui, and you saw the change. You saw the shift, right? Well, now it's not just Rui. Now you have a guy in Taurean Prince who can go get you some buckets and still provide the defensive side. Cam Reddish, you could throw in, right? And people talk about Jarred Vanderbilt and his energy and his youth and whatnot. Like, Cam Reddish provides a lot of the same stuff, right? I still believe that Jarred Vanderbilt should play in spot. Like, I am of the mind, I think the Lakers should keep the same starting five as last year. But I think it's very likely, and don't be surprised, if Jarred Vanderbilt is just operated as like a sort of specialist. Jarred Vanderbilt, he's getting, 5 minutes to start the game, or even if he doesn't start, right, like he gets 5 minutes towards the end of the game, and his assignment is just to shut down the best player on the other team. And that also leans into just his energy, right? So many people have talked about like, oh, you need his energy, you need his focus, you need his defense. That's more of an argument for him to be a specialty player, because instead of 40 minutes a game or 25 minutes a game, right, instead of him for 25 minutes having to try to provide some level of offense, but also give you the elite level of defense for that entire stretch, now you could put him in for 5 to 6 minutes or whatever a game and say we're playing Denver, right? You could put him and just say, look, don't worry about offense, don't worry about nothing. Shut down Jamal Murray. Keep him just contained as much as possible. And Jarred Vanderbilt can focus all of that energy, all of that just focus and high intensity. He can keep that all just honed in a 5-minute stretch, get some rest, and then do it at the end of the games to slow him down, right? And then in that way, you don't have to worry about his liability on the offensive end. You don't have to worry about your offense being stagnant. You can put him with other complementary guys rather than having to go with like just the starters. Like you could go and have say like LeBron AD. You go like AD, Rui, Vando, Reeves, and Vincent or something like that. And you have basically 4 guys that could all score and shoot the ball and do multiple things, but Vando is kind of the one offensive liability, but still, like, you can have him just focus in minutes, and then he comes out, LeBron goes in, or, D'Lo, or whatever. You can run mix and matches. But for him to be playing 25 minutes a game and shooting what he shot last year, I don't see it. I don't see that. I don't see that argument now that you have guys like Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish. And, you could even go Rui at the 3 and LeBron at the 3 and go that heavily, right? You could just have those two heavily play the 3. Like, I still don't know if Rui even gets 25 minutes a game. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Rui is around 15 to 20 minutes a game, right? And I know some people don't think about that, but again, it's about keeping guys healthy over the course of the regular season. Just like we saw in the playoffs, his minutes went up, right? So Rui getting, say, 15 minutes a game in the regular season, that probably goes up to like 18 to 20 minutes in the playoffs. Because again, it's about keeping guys healthy. It's about keeping guys' minutes down. Instead of everybody playing, or playing 5, 6, 7, 8 guys 30 minutes a game, you can now drop those guys' minutes to whatever, 15 or 18, and now everybody is fresh and healthy. And also, you look at all the threats. Christian Wood, his minutes have to come from somewhere, right? Like, and yes, Wood is primarily going to play the 5 is my guess, but he's probably playing the 4 in spots. And Anthony Davis wants to primarily play the 4. If Anthony Davis was like, yes, I want to play the center position, that's what I want to be, and you had now Anthony Davis and Wood as the backup center, perfect, that's fine. Then I think you could give Vando 15 plus minutes a game, but that's not what looks to be happening. What looks to be happening is Anthony Davis wants to play the 4, so let's say he plays 30 minutes a game, at least 20, if not more, of those minutes are going to be at the 4 spot. And then you're running Christian Wood and Hayes at the 5, interchangeable at the 5, and then AD might play, 5 to 8 minutes a game at the 5 spot. But for the most part, you're talking probably 20 plus minutes for Christian Wood at the 5. He probably spends 5 minutes a game at the 4, and LeBron's going to play the 3, which I'm not super huge on. But if he ends up playing 30 minutes at the 3, right? Like now you only have 18 minutes to divvy up between all these guys. And same thing with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is playing 30 minutes at the 4, then you only have 18 minutes to divvy up the guys, right? Like, again, like, there's only so many minutes in a game. Minutes have to come from somewhere, right? And Vando, if he is the one offensive liability, then he's probably the guy whose minutes are going to get cut. I don't think that he's not going to play ever. Like, I don't think he's going to fall out of the rotation or anything. He's arguably the best defensive on-ball defender in the entire league. You make room for him, but you're not going to need him to play 30 minutes a game when you have other guys now, right? Like the Lakers could still probably be the number 1 defense in the league, even if you remove Jarred Vanderbilt off this roster, because you have so many sizable wings that are all switchable, that can all defend, that can all do so many different things, right? Like, or at least top 5 defense. Right? Like, I still believe that they would be top 5 even without Vando, especially with the defensive-minded coach in Darvin Ham. But you add in Vando. Vando is that, like, difference between you being, really good defensively and one of the best defensive teams to, like, far and away, now you are an elite defense and the best defensive team. Right? But you also need the offense to complement that. Right? And the offense would get stagnant at times. And we saw that these elite offensive teams were able to figure out how to kind of neutralize Vando a little bit, right? Even the Warriors kind of were able to figure it out a little bit, right? Like it becomes challenging. And so I'm not saying that he's not going to play. Like whenever I talk about this stuff, it seems like people take it as like, oh, like, Vando's too good to not play. I'm not saying that he's not going to play the game of basketball. He is too good. He is too valuable. But you got to pick and choose guys that are playing specific minutes. Now, obviously, there will be some variance, right? Let's say Vando is completely shutting down Anthony Edwards, and you take Vando out of the game, and Anthony Edwards starts going off, and he's killing you, then yeah, you're going to play Vando back again, and now you're probably playing him 20 minutes a game. But I think for most nights, game in and game out, he probably plays around 10 to 12 minutes a game. Probably my guess. Again, I could be completely wrong. I just don't want people to expect him to play 30 minutes a game, and it's just not going to happen. Now, if, again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if he is like 36% from 3 this year or 37% from 3, and he's like a real threat from 3, then yeah, now you might be talking. Now you might be talking him getting 20 minutes a game, right? Because now it's like the juice is worth the squeeze. So it's like you got the best defensive guy, and the guy is not a liability on the offensive end. But if he's anywhere close to what he was last year offensively, then he becomes a liability on that end. And now opposing teams' defenses don't have to play fair, right? Now you can double team Anthony Davis and not worry about getting beat by the other 4 guys. It changes things, and it makes things difficult. We saw Anthony Davis start to progress a little bit because he's having to fight over 2 or 3 guys, where if you had Vando, who's that corner 3 threat, well, we can't go and double team AD, right? If Taurean Prince is in that corner, the Lakers probably don't have that issue. So that's the thing. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. How do you feel? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.